I'd like to take a moment to introduce our very first guest. His name is Adam Bleibtreu, and he's the Chief Marketing Officer for ASGN and Creative Circle. Adam, welcome to Strictly Staffing.
Brad, thanks for having me.
Can you do us a favor and share a little bit more about your background, your role, and one thing that's not on your LinkedIn profile?
Happy to. I came to the world of staffing from having been an entrepreneur. You can blame me for putting TV sets on gas pumps with a few partners I had years back. So we thought we'd entertain you at one of the least favorite moments of your day. I was introduced to the leadership at Creative Circle 6 years ago and really felt that they were smart and intuitive. I was fascinated by the culture they had built, so I joined that team. 3 years into that journey, we were acquired by what was then On Assignment, now ASGN, and same thing, Peter and the leadership team he had built really, I thought, had very strong direction, and as a result of that, the unique opportunity to be the Chief Marketing Officer of both the parent brand, providing mentorship to the marketing leaders across the divisions, and then actually managing day-to-day activities of the marketing team at Creative Circle. As far as something that's not on my LinkedIn profile, my first real job out of college was working with Hanna-Barbera, and on Saturdays and Sundays, I was the man inside of the Scooby-Doo costume.
Like that.
Wonderful. Well, you have a really diverse background, which is why we're so excited to have you today, and we appreciate you taking the time to join us.
Pleasure to be here with my fellow panelists.
To your left, I'd like to introduce Tammy Browning. So Tammy is Global Vice President of Operations at Kelly Services. And Tammy, can you do us a favor and share more about your role and one thing we would not know about you based on your LinkedIn profile?
All right, fair enough. Thanks for that, Brad. Happy to be here also. I am the Vice President and Managing Director of Kelly OCG, and I'm responsible for our global operations and our product management of our MSP, RPO, and our integrated staffing solutions. My organization makes up just about $8.3 billion in spend under management, 1,200 employees, and operating in 55 countries on any given day. Very complex. We're very proud of the Kelly organization and our brand, and really, quite frankly, more proud that we put someone to work every 30 seconds. Happy to be here.
Wonderful. And one thing not on your LinkedIn profile.
Not on my LinkedIn profile. When I entered the world of work many years ago, I challenged myself to take a job for commission only. And really a mano a mano, it was all about what money I could make for myself. And I sold artwork out of the trunk of my car and did that across the United States. And I promise you, if you have today a Mark King golf print of Augustus at 13 or Cypress Point somewhere hanging in your home, it might have very well been in my 1990 Ford Probe.
Yeah. Well, we're lucky to have you, and we appreciate you taking the time to join us.
Glad to be here.
And Barry, of course, you no longer need an introduction, but I do want to thank you for distilling years of research into a 10-minute segment for us. But help our viewers understand one thing that might not be on your LinkedIn profile.
Well, I'll give you one thing is with a group of friends and I, we're working on, we love to cycle and have been working on biking from the Canadian border down to Mexico along the Pacific coast. So we've been doing it over a number of years, and so far have gone from the border down to Santa Barbara. Next summer, we're going to finish from Santa Barbara down to Mexico. So having a lot of fun with that.
Wow, quite the accomplishment. And thank you again for joining us here.
Happy to be
So
here.
We're going to use the framework that you shared in the disciplines of top performing staffing agencies to lead our conversations with our panelists today. And our hope is to unpack some of the pragmatic sort of ways that these disciplines come to life within the organizations that both Adam and Tammy work for. So I'm going to start with you, Adam. One of the first disciplines that Barry shared was around the commitment to growth. And not many staffing agencies have a CMO. So even by way of that role, you can see that your organization is committed to growing. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you guys are approaching marketing and growth at your firm?
Absolutely. At the parent level at ASGN, growth is clearly an imperative and a strategic direction to pick the right areas to growth. So the marketing team helps strategy and leadership with defining opportunities, looking at paths to help get there. And growth can come in a variety of ways. It can come from internally in the teams that you build and how you manage them, as well as your top line and your bottom line. From Creative Circle's perspective, their culture and the focus we have in that marketplace has led to really some substantive growth there. The hardest part in a question like you're asking is to put your finger on one thing that says, this is the direction we're going to go. This is the speed with which we're going to maintain to get there. If the world worked that way, I would be inviting you to my island somewhere in the Caribbean. It takes great leadership, and it takes focus.
Wonderful, thank you. And Tammy, of course, Kelly being one of the pioneers in the space, you guys are no stranger to growth.
Yeah.
Share a little bit about how you guys are thinking about growth, and maybe to Adam's point, how you're thinking about disciplined growth for your organization.
So if I reflect back, Barry, on what you had shared early on and really looking at your 5 disciplines, I think from a large company, albeit a Kelly $5.5 billion, to a small company that could be 10 million or just under 100 million, we all run the risk of having challenges with respect to any one of those 5 disciplines. And so for me, I think when I think of the Kelly brand and what has differentiated us, what has got us where we are today, is that, one, our brand is one of the most recognized brands in our industry. Secondly, as you indicated, we pioneered the industry 73 years ago. Our founder was very passionate about the world of work and the world of temporary work, and he firmly believed that temporary work could change the way in which people worked. It could change the way in which people live. It could also change the way by which organizations acquired talent to get work done. And so when you think about the fact that he created a noble purpose, and our noble purpose was that we find work for people in ways that enrich their lives, at the end of the day, while strategies change, while industries change, while issues arise, the people, the leadership, I firmly agree and with my colleagues that it's about the leadership and the discipline to stay the course, because we cannot be all things to all people. At Kelly, we are very specialized. We know our specialties. We know what we're good at. We stay the course to that. It's commercial, light industrial, education, and scientific engineering. And we've stayed true to that all the way through, whether we place the resources or whether our supply chain places them.
Thank you. As I listen to you talk, and same with you, Adam, I can sense that it's very easy for you guys to articulate the purpose and the reason that you go to work every day. And definitely at LinkedIn, we take that very seriously, and it's a part of the DNA of our culture. Barry, I'm curious, with the firms that you studied in your book and your research, could you see a correlation between a well-articulated purpose and vision for these firms and their ability to improve the trajectory of their growth?
Absolutely. There's a high intersection between 2 of the research reports we produce every year, which is the fastest growing staffing firms, as well as the best staffing firms to work for. Many of the players who are on that fastest growing list are on the best staffing firms to work for. And that's no mistake, I think. It's because this is a highly intense service business where people are key. And so getting engagement from your staff is critical. And the first place that starts is with the having a reason for them to come to work every day, that they buy into the purpose, they buy into the vision. That's the first step in building a high-performing organization. And so there's a lot of overlap, I think, between those 2 things, and that's how you get started in really growing a business.
It's interesting, having spent most of my career in professional services organizations, whether it's staffing firms or other solutions providers, your people are essentially your product. And I believe strongly that your culture is then a reflection of the innovation that you provide and the experience that your customers have. And so knowing how important culture is to the success of business, Adam, can you share a little bit about how you guys think about culture at ASGN? What are the things you do to engineer the right outcomes?
I think without doubt, culture is the critical component to success. Regardless of the brand, from ECS all the way through cybercoders, our individual divisions have phenomenally strong cultures, and the leaders there have focused on it, daily. It's again, you can't put your finger on it and say, I'm going to go build culture, but what you can do is build a structure and an environment that culture can thrive in. And one of the key components to sort of feeding and watering it is purpose, direction, and discipline. So if you surround your opportunity with those components and feed it, culture will grow, and you can support it and you can help manage it. But it's the key driver to the success of our business.
And I think the proof is in the pudding for your business.
Yeah.
Barry, you put it pretty eloquently in saying that, culture by design frankly works better than culture by default. So Tammy, maybe you can talk about some of the cultural design or intentions at Kelly and how that's played a role in your growth and success as a business.
Yeah, again, I'm going to go back to our strategy and our purpose. When you think about Kelly, we have nearly 8,000 employees that work for us on a global basis. And when you think about how to drive culture through an organization where you can't actually have engagement day to day with every single one of those people, you have to really have a passion and a purpose that drives through. And at Kelly, we all, as we say, bleed Kelly green. And how we drive that through is really making sure that our strategy and our purpose is understood by all. And whether you're in a Kelly branch office, you can feel it, it's palatable. The teams understand that at the end of the day, we do a great thing. We find work for people in ways that enrich their lives. And that passion and motivation is what makes people get up in the morning and come to work and be phenomenal recruiters and phenomenal salespeople and really embrace our industry, which is really a phenomenal industry for all of us.
Thank you for that. At LinkedIn, we're fortunate because we're able to work with thousands of staffing agencies around the globe, big and small. Mm-hmm. And we can see that the ones that are investing in their people and harnessing the power of their culture are the ones that seem to be outperforming their peers, much like Barry described. But what we also hear from those same customers is that one of their biggest barriers to growth is skill shortages in the market. Frankly, that there is an imbalance of supply and demand for key roles in certain geographies. And that makes it difficult for them to be able to grow at the pace that they're looking for.